Hello and welcome back to the Project Hercules Diaries, the first update of the new year. Happy New Year for 2023. A bit of mixed emotions because it was disappointing not to have the engine running last year, but we have done an awful lot in the way of progress. At the start of the year, we were only just cutting the circlip grooves in the engine case. We hadn't done the final assembly, we hadn't done the timing, we hadn't figured all of that out. There's the oil ways that weren't drilled, we had no frame, we had no rolling chassis. So there's a lot of progress last year, and 2022 hasn't been a bad year in terms of progress. This is the completed flywheel assembly with the conrod, and we now that Bob's come back, he spent the day in the garage, we've got the 4 cap screws fitted, so those holes have been drilled all the way through this solid pulley, and that's bolted the pulley on. The pulley itself also acts as the spacer between itself and the sprocket, which will drive the dyno start and be driven by the dyno start to start the engine. Those bearing inners are locked onto the shaft, and that's how it will be together once it's all assembled. So really good progress there. The next job is to pop back next door and fit this onto the test mandrel so we can get the chain tension sorted, which will look I'll show you where that is. I'll just teleport there now. Whoosh, here we go. This is where we're going to put it next onto this dummy mandrel. We haven't got the 4 bolt holes drilled and tapped around the outside, so we'll just use a long bolt to hold that pulley and chain assembly on the end here. But it does mean that we can make sure the chain is the right length. This has now got the keyway cut in this end, so we can tighten up the bolt, get the chain the right length, and sort out the mechanism to adjust the tension on the dyno start, and take those copper tubes out, make some nice brass inserts, and put a proper thread on the end of a bit of a longer piece of silver steel, and just tidy up that whole thing. But once that's done, there's nothing then to stop us doing the final assembly of the engine. So the engine will come out of the frame, and that will get final assembled before the whole thing goes back in again and then gets ready to start. So possibly by Easter. Every year I think this could be the year that we fire up the engine, but this year definitely 2023 it will be running. I'm sure that I'm not the only one looking forward to hearing it. A few of the things got done this year. You may recall the very recent post on the 540 that's now fully operational, and one of the first jobs I've done on it is to just grind perfectly flat the magnetic vice which is on there, and that's come out really well. There's still a little bit here that's a bit low, but I didn't want to take too much off that, and it's big enough to do most of the jobs. So yeah, it's been quite a productive year. At the start of the year we didn't have the bike at all, so that's quite a bit of progress for 1 year. A few other annoying little jobs that have needed to be done are getting in the way. The big red Guzzi's off the road, the MOT's expired, and the backlights are playing up because for some reason Motor Guzzi like to use telephone wire rather than actual thick wire for the rear lights, and it's quite fragile, so I'm just in the process of replacing that. And of course excuse me, it's difficult to do that with the wheel in place because you just can't physically get underneath with your hands to splice the wires. So there's other bits and bats that you know sometimes get in the way, but by and large it's not been a bad year. So that's the update to round off the year or start the new year. Thank you all for watching. More updates will follow.